Hello students, you are welcome to the study session 3 of the course NSC 208 titled Cellular Pathology. In this study session, we are going to have discussion on dynamics of disease. Dynamics of disease will introduce you to progressive stages of disease and the various terms associated with disease causation, methods of transmission of infectious agents, as well as the host determinant factors. And when you have learned this study session, you should be able to describe the host-agent relationship. Also, you should be able to explain methods and ways of transmission of infection, as well as discussing the intrinsic and extrinsic determinants of disease. When you talk of host-agent relationship, the host we are talking of will now be considered as human being, and the agent will be considered as microorganisms that are pathogenic in nature that have invaded the tissue of the host. So when microorganisms enter the tissues of the host, there should be a form of interaction between this microorganism and the host. Hence the topic, host-agent relationship. This is related between infection and disease are frequently dynamic in nature. The center of balance that can be achieved between the resistance mechanism of the host and the infectivity and virulence of the agent. What we are saying is that resistance of the host is a factor to determining what the resultant effect of interaction between the host and agent will look like. Also, how virulent that microorganism is also a factor. Disease outbreak caused by the introduction of an agent into susceptible host which has not been previously exposed to that agent normally result in disease of high pathogenicity. You can measure severe losses in the host population. That is, the outbreak of that disease into those hosts which have not been previously exposed to that disease will be more disastrous than those who have been exposed to that disease initially. Such process is actually detrimental to the agent's survival, since by killing off the host population, it affects both ability to reproduce and chances of gaining access to new susceptible hosts. That is, the agent itself, when it destroys the host, will definitely destroy itself. Agent can therefore improve chances of survival by increasing its infectivity and decreasing its pathogenicity. So when you see an agent that have both pathogenicity and infectivity on the high side, they cannot maintain their survival in any ecosystem. But when they increase their infectivity and reduce their pathogenicity, then they can as well live for longer period, and they will have chances of infecting more people in the community. You can classify agents into two. We have living agents and we have non-living agents. These agents are capable of causing diseases in man, either they are living or they are not living. When you talk of living agents, you are discussing those agents like microbial agents, which includes viruses, bacteria, legacy, protozoa, hermits, which is worm, and anthropos. Whereas non-living agents could be physical agents like heat and cold, water, nutrients, and toxic substances. They are referred to as non-living agents. Infectivity is a measure of ability of a disease agent to establish itself in the host. The term can be used qualitatively when an agent is referred to as being of low, medium, or high infectivity. Or you can use it quantitatively. After become infected, the host may or may not become deceased. And this is again determined by a range of intrinsic and extrinsic determinants of the agent and the host, which we are going to discuss later. But you are able to grasp it here that living agents are microbial organisms. Non-living agents are physical in nature, such as heat, cold, water, nutrients, and toxic substances. So when you look at the infectivity and pathogenicity of an agent, we conclude that agent who is both infective and pathogenic will not live long because they are bound to destroy the ecosystem of the host, and thereby they will end up destroying themselves. Then let us look at the host as a carrier. When you look at the word carrier, it is used to describe an individual that is infected by a disease agent and is capable of disseminating this agent, but he himself will not show any signs of that clinical infection. Once again, let me say that when you say someone is a carrier, it means that person has been infected by a disease agent, but he himself is not showing any clinical symptom of that disease. Carriers can be classified under three basic headings. You have healthy carrier, you have incubatory carrier, and you have what we call convalescent carrier. When you talk of a true carrier, it's an infected individual capable of disseminating the infectious agent, but which he himself will never exhibit clinical sign of disease. We are calling them healthy because they have the disease condition in them. They are not showing any sign of that disease, but they can transmit that infection to others and they remain healthy. When you talk of incubatory carrier, they are those which are infected and capable of disseminating that infection, but that infection has not reached incubatory stage at which it can produce clinical signs in that individual. So we call that individual incubatory carrier. When you now said somebody is a carrier of convalescent in nature, which means that person has been attacked by this infection. He has taken necessary treatment and is recuperating from that infection. In that period of recuperation, it can still be a source of infection to others around him. That person is referred to as is referred to as convalescent carrier. So they can all transmit infection to others, but they have undergone series of stages in their infection life. Now, what are the methods of transmitting infectious agents? There are three methods I want to discuss here. The first one is through contact. Contact with somebody who is infected by that disease. It can be a form of physical contact, skin to skin contact. It can be a form of venereal transmitted diseases, thereby when one has sexual intercourse with someone who has been infected with some of these venereal diseases. It can be through indirect contact because the agents can pass out of the body of the host through feces or any secretion from the body, and that one can serve as source of infection to susceptible host. That one is still contact, but it's indirect contact. Let me say a patient in the hospital who is infected and is using a pillow or bed sheet which is not properly disinfected, it is now used for somebody else, and that person will now catch the infection. It is still through contact, but this contact is indirect in nature. Then we talk of through inanimate objects. There are some objects that are inanimate in nature that can serve as a means of transmitting infection to another human being. These agents could be ordinary cooking or kitchen utensils. It can be through the wears, through underwears or overwears. It can be through any form of inanimate object, handkerchief, pillows, anything you can think of. They are inanimate objects. It can be through them that you get this disease transmitted to another person. Other one we can think of is intermediate host. The vector, or what we call intermediate host. They are those hosts that will serve as the link between the last person that has been affected by the disease and the next person. And the host at times may be livestock. And when the livestock has been affected by a particular organism, and that livestock serves as a means of nutrient for human being, the human being can be affected by this infection. Let me give you an instance of a cow infected by bovine disease. Any man who take milk from that cow will also be infected with tuberculosis. We have what we call foot and mouth disease in cattle. It's very common in those days, and anybody that takes those cattle is born to have that disease transmitted. So this cattle will now serve as intermediate host because it's an host in which the agent undergoes a sexual phase of development before it now gets to the susceptible host who will now get infected. We have two different ways of transmission of infectious agents. It could be through biological ways or could be through mechanical means. Mechanical transmission serves as vehicle whereby infectious agent is conveyed from one host to another without undergoing any stage of development or multiplication. In mechanical transmission, agent is carried on the skin or mouth part of the vector from an infected to a susceptible host. The lifetime of the agent in or on the vector is very short. As a result of this, transmission has to be accomplished rapidly. That is mechanical, which means that agent must carry the microorganism to other agents in a very rapid time. When you talk of biological transmission, infectious agent can undergo some sort of development in one vector before it will now send that result into the susceptible host and to complete the circle in that susceptible host. So that one is called biological transmission. But if there is no need for that agent to undergo any multiplication in the primary host, that is called mechanical transmission. If there must be reason for that agent to undergo some form of replication in the host, it is now termed biological transmission. Now look at the host determinant. Most disease agents are capable of infecting a range of animal species, both vertebrate and invertebrate. Severity resulting from such infection may vary between species concerned. While certain host species may be refractory to infection with certain disease agents, others may not. And the failure of programs aimed at controlling certain disease in one species has often been blamed on the presence of natural reservoir species because they can reintroduce the infectious agent into the system. This determinant factor could be intrinsic or could be extrinsic. When you say intrinsic factors, they are those factors that are inherent in that particular host. When you say extrinsic factor, there are some factors that are not inherent but they are product of the external interaction between the host and the agent. Because when there is interaction between the host and the agent, it determines how much susceptibility that host is to that infectious agent. Actually, it could be soil, it could be other physical structures that are not part of the individual self, but they are external to that individual. Whereas intrinsic one are those factors that are inherent in that individual, which may involve his immunity, which may involve the sex, which may involve the age of that individual. So with that, we are able to discuss the mechanism of disease, and we have come to the end of this session. When next we meet, we can discuss one certain topic on our darling course, Energy 208 on cellular pathology. Until then, I wish you all the best.